Okay, so good morning, everyone. And this is the Good Morning Education Show. And like our usual way, we're going to have a signature um, rolling and then we'll start the event. This is the Good Morning Education. We are live, and with me, Titi, Safety Chick, Ronke. How are you this morning, everyone?
I'm good.
Morning. I'm good.
Good morning, everyone.
I'm super good.
Good morning. And for those who are joining us across the world, please do not hesitate to say good morning to us. And please ensure you let us know your location and your streaming from. You help us also to understand that we'd like you to also share your questions. If you have questions along the line, please do ensure that you also send in your comments. We would like to hear from you, to hear your thoughts, and also to get to see how we can learn together, grow together, and share together. So we are live today, and it's exciting. As usual, we're going to go straight to the news. We'll talk about the headlines, and we will be back on the matter of the day. We are talking on the fourth part of the series, which is What Shapes the Child. And today, I'm sure we're going to have an interesting conversation. right. You're welcome back again, and let's just have comments from everyone on the headlines. I'm sure we've seen the headlines.
Uh, General.
Yes.
You said general. What do you mean by
That
general?
part of
Go ahead, Ugochi. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. That part about UNESCO saying that COVID-19 may set education back by 6 years, that is a problem. And that is why we must really try to see how education continues, regardless of the circumstances, whether school will be opening in a physical building or whatever other options that we have. We must see that somehow children still get their education.
That I read it anyway. I've seen it before even now, and I think there is a truth and fallacy to it. There is a there is a the setback is a fallacy, but the truth is
Mm.
education should continue. But the fallacy
Yes.
is there's no setback. There's no setback
Jude, I completely disagree with you on that.
because we are not where are we pushing our kids to? Are we
No, no,
like
no,
would they not still be educated without
that,
COVID?
Jude, I
I
think the mistake that you are making is that calling it a fallacy. Now, you are probably assuming that we are competing on local standards as opposed to global standards. If our children cannot compete globally, then they have been set back. It is a cause of concern, Jude.
They are not Nigerian children alone.
No, Jude.
African children are already generally behind. African children are already generally behind. Why would we want them to even be further behind? Why would we want to widen the knowledge gap?
You're not getting the.
Perhaps I'm not. Perhaps I'm not. Perhaps
you're
I'm
not getting
not.
the talk. The talk is you are setting children back because of COVID-19. But the truth is that there's no setback. You don't define setback by your rules and regulation that schools should be one way or be on one path. So we are defining setback from.
These are semantics, so it doesn't.
Yeah, no, Jude. The definition for UNESCO, UNESCO
Okay,
looks
can we substitute that word?
They look at the SDG goals, and the SDG goals are quality education for all. Remember that the figures were like 10.5 million children out of school.
Yes.
With COVID, what's going to happen? Let me finish. No, what's going to happen with COVID is that number is going to increase. 6 years ago, when we were saying, oh, there are 20 million children out of school, that's what we're going to say post-COVID, and that's actually a fact. Because what's going to happen is some children are going to get pregnant during this period, so they're going to be out of school. Some people that their parents have used them to do shop assistant, their parents are not going to let them go back. So people are just going to, people that you kind of encourage them to send their children to school during this period, they'll be like,
okay.
So what's going to happen is that the numbers that we've been able to gain in the last 6 years, we are going to go back in that. And honestly, even my children, they are in the state of they've been at home for so long, even not because they are doing some of the online learning, they will be happy just stay at home and watch TV all day. So is in that thing that is setting us back.
Maybe Jude should tell us what setback means to him.
Look at it. The
setback. I think there's a challenge with the English. We are defining in different ways.
The setback is not COVID-19. The setback is your government. Let's get that straight. The setback is not COVID-19. So it's COVID-19 is not causing the setback. It's the government that is causing the setback. And whoever is in policy that is causing the setback.
I disagree. This is a global pandemic. It's a global pandemic. All the government around the world are experiencing the same thing.
Yes, so it's decisions that will cause the setback. It's not COVID-19. It's their decisions that causes the setback.
Okay, I think I understand where Jude is coming from now. I understand where Jude is coming from.
If they are not making the right decision, that's the setback, not COVID-19.
Oh, I disagree. COVID-19.
Okay, Titi and Jude, I get you now. The thing is, COVID-19 came upon the world and set everybody back, including children and adults. Yes, it set everybody back because we couldn't run our businesses and do everything we had to do. So COVID-19 came upon everybody. Now, the responsiveness of each government is different. The responsiveness of each government is different. Some are better than others. So it has come upon us, set everybody back, and the government have responded in different ways. So yes, it's both COVID-19, as Titi said, and it's also the government, because our own responsiveness is not as thorough as that of other people. I think we have settled it.
Okay, hold on. This is round one.
Round one.
Round one. So go to the sidelines, get ready, take some water, boxing gloves ready. Rhoda, good morning. Are you going to be our referee today? All right. Now, okay, let me ask a funny question. I'm actually looking for trouble, but let me ask a question. So, who are we going to blame for COVID-19 now?
I'm not one to blame people. When there are issues, I always tell people that it's not about blame. It's just like being born in Nigeria and claiming that I'm being born in Nigeria. It has happened. We don't need to blame anybody. We just need to make the most of it and move forward.
I was just trying to act naughty. I was just trying to act
naughty. It doesn't fit you.
Yeah.
Okay, so Titi, you want to say something? Sorry about continuing.
No, I agree with Ronke. I'm like, blaming doesn't achieve anything. What's the solution? How do we move forward? How do we, try and catch up? That's really what it is. But COVID came, it affected a lot of us. It set all of us back. Not all of us responded well. Not all the government, that's not in Nigeria, all over the world, not all the government responded well. So we have been set back. But how do we move forward? How do we move forward so that the setback, we can quickly gain on some of things that we've lost?
Let me give you a deal here. Microsoft, Google, they are also set back because they are thinking of ways to recuperate their workforce. So even the tech part of it, they are also set back. So I don't know the 6 years they're envisaging or they are clamoring that. We should not target children alone. We should not target children alone.
But UNESCO focused on children, so they were speaking to their own target audience. They're speaking about their target audience.
Absolutely. And Prophet, we're talking about children here now. Should we talk about grandparents?
They are alive.
Jude, he said, look at figures. They're looking at their data. So based on this data, this is the data that I had of 6 years ago, and that's how they come to the conclusion.
Some of them are forecasting now. Some of them are just forecasting.
It's a forecast.
No, UNESCO will not.
We should have
even if it's a forecast and it's going to set the children back not 6 years but 3 years, the fact that they're going to be set back academically is concerning, and we should actually sit up and try and see what we can do about it.
Yeah, that's where decisions comes into play. Our decisions.
Okay.
Welcome, Dr. Ebenezer Odetola, Israel. Although you're in Lagos, Nigeria, but you belong to Israel in name. Have you been to Israel before, by the way?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I think Israel is not a bad country because they talk about the education system as one of the best. I think I'll be planning to.
So when you get there, let me give you an hashtag: Israel meets Israel, or Israel goes to Israel.
In Israel. Israel in Israel.
Israel in Israel.
I'll chop it.
All right, so let's one more. Does anyone say anything on the headlines? Then we'll go straight to.
Anyway, I looked at the headline saying NUT insists that government should provide PPE and water.
I like it.
Honestly, who is following me to laugh? That's where we are.
Yeah, but you just
There's
read
even an
it.
assumption there.
What exactly is so? Not don't just read the headline. Look, Titi, say something. You brought it up.
That's my response is that's my response. That's the response.
There's an assumption there also that every child will be ready in 2 weeks. There's a big assumption that every child has been learning and will be ready for their exams in 2 weeks. I'm a bit worried about the performance. Are they going to rig it like they like to do in some schools? Because as every child, first you have to first of all settle the children into the environment even before you start saying, okay, let's do revision, let's do any bridging of any gap. Within 2 weeks, they should have written that exam. It's concerning for me. I don't.
They've been on TV learning, so
Oh,
let's
please.
help them.
Dude, stop it.
Let's
I don't
help
even
them.
like I don't like beating and smacking, but this morning I feel like coming to boom and beat children. Come on.
Beat and smacking. Sorry, he's coming for us.
Let me just beat you so that I can go and meet someone who lose straight away.
Sorry, coming for us.
To Ronka's point, I think, and these things should be taken quite seriously. Maybe there's that ethical in me. To Ronka's point, there are many assumptions being made that the children will be ready by this date, August 17th, right? And the fact that what your government even provided as a stopgap learning experience that does not include a feedback cycle. One clear assumption there is that parents should have been working hard to get their kids learning. And that's an assumption that we cannot take, because as a government is public education, they say it's public good, right? But at the same time, I like to see it as that public education and our education system or schooling should be a common luxury, and meaning that it should be easier for everybody to attempt to have the learning experience that will enable them to get into the next level of their education. We're talking about a transition class, a terminal class, and that's a serious conversation. You had an idea of what you wanted them to do 4 weeks ago. You said, let them go back to school. The next thing you pushed back on your own on your own thinking, and then you come back after just right
and you expect them to be ready.
They're going to go back to school.
And you call that quality education. You call that quality education.
So this is policy. This is confusion of. It's a lot of confusion, and
yes.
This case, it's not as though we've had record success at WAEC. What is it that you're not able to make a decision about? What is this? What is the real problem? Why did you walk back on it? Has anything changed between that time and now? So many things we should actually put ask our government a lot of questions. What made you to turn back on your decision? And how ready? What platforms did you create to ensure that these kids were ready? Was it the TV? Was it the website, the learning management system that they had? I can't remember the name. How many people do you know? How many children could have access to it? Or is the assumption that the parents should have known that the kids should be engaged by now? And, so I don't understand. And I'm not talking about private sector here. I'm talking about public sector, because believe me, the private sector, there is a segment of them that are already ready doing their exams. They've been working. They're not waiting for you at all.
Yes, I agree. I agree with the public sector. My argument is even for public sector as well. But having said that, because I ran a poll on my parenting group, there are some public schools that actually too were engaged. But the thing is, the majority of them were not fully engaged.
Yeah.
The engaged one is still maybe 10% or less. 10%. The engaged one is still 10% or less. Because I don't think we are taking this thing too lightly, and it's becoming a joke. It's becoming a joke.
I'm not even sure we're
If
taking it lightly. I don't even think we are taking it anyhow. I just think
I'm
that
not
it's just being left.
not us. I'm talking about even
Yeah, I
ourselves. We are
understand.
taking
No, I'm not even talking about us either. I'm talking about as a nation. I don't think that this is on the spotlight at all. If is somebody's marking their child that is hitting the headlines at this point in time and trending, when you check the trends in other countries, you would find that we have a major challenge in Nigeria. People are talking about sustainable development goals. We were talking about somebody smacking their child.
But
Okay, so
predicted massive failure from this result, honestly, and that's just based on the fact that we know that the kids, majority, the private school quantity, they're so few. Majority are not prepared because even the online learning that my son has done, I know the massive difference between if he had been in a physical classroom, and that is for someone that is in a primary school. How much more people that are meant to be doing, what I would call more serious work. So it's really concern because there's only rushing someone to do something when you can almost see the doom at the end. So I'm really worried. I mean, now I see that in the past years, what was our failure rate in the past years? We tend to have very high failure rates, and that's when there's even physical preparation, physical classroom and more intense preparation. Now that we don't have that, what's going to be the failure rate? Because the failure rate for WAEC has, in the past how many years, have been woeful. So it's really a cause of concern. And I agree with you. Just as the fact that this is not what's trending on any social media platform, just shows where we place education as a nation. I like what Good Luck is saying. Good Luck is saying over 4.3 million euros was set aside by the Euro government to support PPE and provision, the safety guidelines.
No, he was talking about it in relation to 10,000 videos. Yes, okay, the comment is on the screen now.
No, you was
UK
also
set up a team
responding
of
to
teachers.
the PPE comment, what government is doing to provide for the safety of children and
let's
students.
a technical, right? And say, okay, usually what happens in the academic calendar or in content calendar for this exit class, especially SS3, in the year, is that by the end of second term, they've pretty much finished content, right? So what third term usually characterizes is a form of review, right? That they're doing mostly review. And so and if the review time is between April and traditionally they would have done this in May, June, right? If the review time was just predominantly in May, the month of April, which they basically just had maybe like about effectively 2 or maybe let me call it 3 weeks or 4 weeks of learning review time over what they've done and what had to get them ready for the exams. Then that means that there should be a level. I think the thinking of the government now is that that within this time frame they've given, there should be the same expedited process of covering what it needs to be reviewed. However, it is not the same in terms of this time around. Traditionally, they would have this time around. They cannot converge physically in the way that they would converge. So there must be social distancing guidelines and things like that. I'm wondering, if that is the case, then how much of remediation can be covered for them? How much of review would they be requiring? Especially that a lot of them have really not participated, as we're seeing the majority of children not participating with digital content or any content that is digitally provided. So that's the challenge. I just really am wondering, what is happening for them in terms of going back now to school. Like, what is the plan? What is the learning plan? What's the workflow in just for them, so that we know, okay, that this time around it won't be such a difference. We're not expecting gains. I mean, WAEC has not been the best results in years, but should we now expect a decline, or should we? What are we looking at, and what are our plans?
I want to quickly assume for them.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to assume what they are trying to on. As usual, they are like trying to throw in WAEC. Okay, if you fail WAEC, at the end of the day, you can go and write NECO so that you can combine your results.
That is the biggest joke.
That is the assumption. That is what they are trying to do.
That is a joke because we have come to the place that WAEC is not a routine. They are making it into a routine. Just go through the hoops.
I know a lot of people.
You go to GC, you write NECO or whatever.
Yes.
Okay, so Jude, there's something that we must respect and understand. Education is actually also a business. When I say a business, I'm not talking about the place of enterprise, but I'm talking about the construct of education itself. So while the purpose of education is to raise awareness, to raise informed citizens, there's a mechanism that runs education. And some of the things that we are asking, and I like the fact that we are raising questions, but we need to understand that the way the questions will be responded to sometimes comes through different platforms. And one of the platforms is the Good Morning Education Show, where from our diverse views, we raise questions. And of course, we believe that those who are in the corridors of doing something about it can hear us. It's well captured. It's a reference point. However, we need to also recognize that we need to get people to know that certain people that will do certain things are not on the streets of social media. And so there are certain things that will not change if we do not transition from concern to advocacy. And there's a clear cut on that. A lot of us are speaking out of the place of concern, and concern is easily expressed in terms of opinion. A lot of people are speaking in terms of post online and all that. But we need to get a couple of people, a few people, a specific set of individuals to transition from concern to the place of advocacy. Advocacy is one of the most guaranteed way to get these people to see and hear. But because we sometimes get to see that they hear.
Rotimi, I hope it's not only me or you're breaking.
I can't hear him. I can't hear him.
I think it's from his network. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Rotimi.
Can we just continue?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a comment from Glory Garden Schools at Abeokuta, and she says the confusion in Ogun State is even more alarming. The governor announced resumption of primary 6, JSS3 and SS3 for all of us to be told later that only the SS3 will resume.
Can I even say something? I went to Ibadan yesterday. I'm in Osun State, right? But yesterday I went to Ibadan, and it was in the afternoon, and I saw a girl coming back from school with her school uniform.
Yes. Public school, right? Public school.
This is what I was saying on TV. I said this on TVC.
That the uniform.
It was said, safety chick. It was said on national news about 2 weeks ago that there are some school owners that are being looked for by the government because they are operating their schools already. So they caught a few of them and they're on the run. So the thing is, schools are open. Schools are open. Teachers are even engaging children privately in corners.
Yeah. Your state is not hiding that fact. It's online.
No, I'm not even talking about the third term resumption that they cancelled. That's not what I'm talking about. Third term, we all know that they have cancelled third term. They are moving ahead. This conversation we had with the media happened even before your state opened. People have been having lessons even since the lockdown. So that they've been risking the lives of many children since.
Some do it on mufti, not even uniform.
Yes, exactly. They've been doing it. Safety chick, you are really country touring around.
Okay, I think
so let's get to the matter of today. Yes. Although the headline
we have not even started the matter of today.
We spent
round one.
I was ringing the bell, but we got stuck in round 2.
Okay.
So what shapes a child? We started on Monday. We spoke about the parent aspect, the dimension of parent and parenting. And then Tuesday, we went straight to the place of teachers. And Wednesday also, yesterday, we're able to tackle a very important area as well, which is the environment. And I was really looking forward to Eben coming online early enough because he has a lot of episodes and series that should go on Netflix on that matter. But now that we are here today, we are going to move straight to school activities. How do we see school activities playing a role in shaping or developing the child? And I'm excited because what we've been saying is actually leading to one thing or the other. And some of the things we've even said today might actually also dovetail into the conversation. So, who wants to go first? I'm opening the check now.
Well, school activities, they're also part of what we do in the environment, because school is also part of the environment. So we can plug it into what we have said yesterday already when it comes to environment. What are the activities that the children are exposed to when they are in school? Some schools are some children are more exposed in schools than others. Some have access to technology than others do. Some have access to even ordinary play. You know, there's some schools that don't play because the parents are always complaining that their children fell down. So the managers of the school will say, you can't go out for break, even if they have lunch. Some schools don't have lunch to play, but they'll tell them, because I don't want your mother to come and shout at me and tell me that you fell down and bruised yourself, or come and beat up the teacher. So they would not even allow them to play. So some schools, they will allow, some children have more access, just as with all things in life. Even this COVID-19, some children easily went online and continued. It wasn't even as if anything happened. And some children are still there and they're still trying to move on with their lives. So what are the facilities that are there? So I think that one also has to do with social economic status as well, because whatever is available, the child will thrive more. Some will have extracurricular activities. You can quickly find their gifts and their talents easily, and even if you don't have a very high social economic status, you can still find your gift naturally. Some children are just playing football on the road and suddenly they realize that they are the next Ronaldo. However, it still needs to be identified and it still needs to be nurtured.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I agree with Ronke, and she said a lot of it yesterday. As a parent, I'm always looking for various activities to expose my children to. And when it comes to selecting schools, that's what I also look for. I look for schools that have a wide range of activities, because I know that, a child's creativity, a child's, exposure, a lot of it has to do with as many activities as you're exposed to, and it's really very critical. Not everybody is maths, English, and science, and that's really what, when a school has a myriad of activities, it can. Not everybody is sporty. I mean, I went to school and I was one of those people that was in clapping event. All the events I attended, I was always a member of the clapping club. I didn't do any sports, but we had lots of sports. Back then there was from football to javelin to shot, so people could have various expressions. So the activities they just give you a wider view of life. Some people, you meet them, you find out that they are so, I don't want to use the word myopic, but they're myopic, and I feel that's because they didn't have an array of experiences, and that's what school activities do. I never knew I would like poetry, but it was school that exposed me to poetry, with our school poetry competition, drama, a lot of those things. And so not all of these things have to be money related. And I think that's what people need to know. Where schools don't have the facilities to, it would have been good for government to have, those kind of youth centers in various communities to encourage room for those expressions. But it's important that schools also look for various ways, and doesn't always all have to be, money related activities. The more kids have that exposure, the more their minds can be open, and the more various people can find expressions. We had competition, and it didn't have to do with being able to buy supplies. I recently saw a lady that was using used tires to create furniture. So it's just give people an opportunity to express themselves, for their creativity to come out, for them to really be creative, for them to really be problem solvers. So I think it's very important that schools should look for it. Never use money to limit yourself. Do so many other things that can give your children an array of activities to expose them to.
Okay.
Okay, so let's.
Hello.
Yeah. All right.
So I want
Okay.
to speak of the point of inclusion, and how it support how school activities literally can help shape a child sometimes. Because when we, there you find, and I've had many examples of parents who have come to me in the school and said to, look, I have given up. I really don't know what to do. I've gone to many schools. I mean, they're not accepting my child. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I say, okay, here is a school that you're going to go to. In this school, your child will be fully included, and then your child will find some kind of support. These parents come in saying things like, my child has, I don't see that my child is ever going to gain their confidence back again. I'm not sure if there's anything that they're good at. I'm trying to figure out an environment that will help me support my child because I can't do it all on my own. And then voila, they get into a school, and this school not only discovers the skills, innate skills, physical skills that the child has, but they also help the child, continue to bloom in that sector and in that area. And then that becomes like a story that, we're still all looking at, and hopefully we'll be able to track as the child grows. But then even just the story of someone who we know, who's, and I like single stories because single stories actually paint a possibility of what can happen. And we are seeing it in the example of Tobiaba Ajayi, somebody who was included in her school as she was growing up, and now she's not just is she a lawyer, but with every sense, every, I don't know what to call it, skill in the world, in that field. But she's also someone who is as strongly advocating for children that live with cerebral palsy. A very articulate woman, and she's found her purpose, and she's capable of doing so many things. The other day I was listening to her on the UNICEF's program talking about of people with living with disabilities. It's profound, and that's a voice. Imagine if she was somewhere else where she was told she was a no good, that they couldn't even see that she was brilliant in the first place because at the time she was going through spasms, and possibly the only way she could respond to that, she knew what sound you were teaching to the others. The others could make the sound, but she could not, to say that she knew the sound. That's something, So school activities actually, and the environment in which it's, like Ronke alluded to, it actually can shape a child. And so, from the point of view of the vantage point of inclusion, that's a thing that we're seeing, that some parents have found support systems in the school in helping them, not just nurture their child, but help bring out in skills and show their intelligence as well.
So I have two questions, and I would like to throw it to everyone. Preferably, maybe we'll listen to Titi first, and Jude. So let me ask you this question. Number one, you've also opened up the conversation from the angle of the school activities. There are some statutory activities that we see happen in schools, right? Regardless of the kind of school. There's, for example, we have the annual or sometimes biannual inter-house sports that schools have. We also have some events like that. There are activities that are school centered. For example, when it's end of the year, some people have end of the year or Christmas carol or Christmas party, as the case may be. Now, all these activities, they shape children, right? Now, how do we try as much as possible to elevate some of these activities beyond mere routine on the calendar, and we make it a little bit more for the children, and then for the educators listening to us out there, we make it a little bit more of something that they are deliberate at, or deliberate to create something out of. Because I feel that we just try to tick the box. Okay, what does your school have? We have jets, we have Boy Scouts, we have all those stuff, and then we have ballet, we have all those things. But beyond the mere routine, how can it transition from just routine to something a little bit more deliberate? So, Titi, I'd like to hear from you.
Honestly, with everything, it's for. I think it's to look for where the practical experience in real life, that thing you're trying to promote, and then try and get it sponsored by those people. So let me give you an example. The reasons why schools in universities out of this country seem to excel is because the skills that they specialized in. They've shown how it comes to life in real life, and that way they're able to get a lot of sponsorship around that. And I think we need to do the same. So like when you take inter-house sport, and promote how from house sport someone got uh, a sports scholarship, to go to a particular university, how the person is taking place in a lot of international sports, then it begins to elevate it beyond something that people used to tick the box. And that's really, so you see a lot of schools try to expose their international competitions, because it does two things. It brings it helps the school's reputation, as well as it also helps those children. So I think trying to take some of those things to bring into the real life application. It's the same thing if you're doing STEM and robotics, and then you can say, oh, you know what, let the children create what life in the 21st century or the 22nd century will be. And then just the fact that children are able to create it, then you bring it to organizations that are into, maybe the children worked on something that had to do with water system. They begin to appreciate the creativity that is, and then it promotes that. It's when we do things that people can see, how will I say, the real life application that people then don't appreciate. But we need to do a lot of that. We need to do a lot more in terms of promoting beyond, beyond the school. So when we do something like financial literacy, and we get banks into it to say, oh, because they can see and they can appreciate how it ties into their business. One of the things we need to realize in Nigeria is that everything.
Let's give it time for response. So, event coming from creativity and coming from someone who teaches art as a subject, and you've always been talking about art integration into subjects as well. Why is it that we do not have so much of that side being expressed? You understand? Art is not taking center stage. What do you think is responsible? And I want you to please answer that like in a minute, 60 seconds.
Yeah, art is good for every child. Art is for every child, regardless of their age, regardless of anything. Art is for everyone. There's something I observe some things about schools that they tend to neglect art because of the budgeting. I know there's a lot of budget around art, but when art is infused into the school system, into the curriculum, into the subject based, into the subject matter, also in the school environment, children tend to love those subjects. Children tend to understand them better because almost every child are visual learners. When they see things, they tend to understand those things better. And then when they manipulate objects also, it tends to develop a lot of skills in them, eye to hand coordination, fine motor skills and more. I find out that when some of those things come into place in form of art, children tend to like them more, and then they tend to even use the word, I want to do this activity, I want to do this activity. So for the question of the day also, bringing celebration into the classroom in form of extracurricular thing. Like now, there was a time I organized art competition and exhibition in a school, and then the children tend to like love the concept. I told them to dye. We dye the clothes. We learn traditional wears, how to dye clothes, tie and dye and more. Then at the end of the day, during the exhibition, all their works were displayed. They were also putting on that clothes. I was not even expecting them to be putting on that clothes after the exhibition. They tend to now like put it on, our sportswear, as we put sportswear on every Thursday. Sometimes we just look at the children and we see the adhere on them. They tend to like some of those things. So we can bring in all subjects in a very fun way, and creativity can actually unleash out of the children.
Thank you so much.
Let's take that question. Is it right to deny a child fun, play, club activity for not completing homework when there's a possibility for that child to excel in that skill? Well, to that, I would say that it's not every question that is right or wrong.
Yeah.
Because every question is not clear cut that, oh, it's not right or it is right. If a child is not doing their work, we can't say, oh, you're not doing your work, go and play. You're not doing your work, go and play. You're not doing your work, go and play. There's got to be room to allow the child to grow. Now, if your child is not doing their work and you're allowing them to play, the parents come and hold your neck. So it just doesn't, it's not right or wrong, but there must be a balance. You must use it as a motivation for the child that if you finish your work on time, We're going to have so much fun. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. So why don't you finish your work on time? And then we go and paint and make some shirts or whatever the case may be. You can use it as a motivation, but I will not say that a child should not do their work because they are excelling on the playground. No way.
All right, thank you.
So I'd like to speak to this topic from the angle of behavior. Extracurricular activities are amazing. They have a way of shaping the young person. I remember taking part in the press club, debates. In fact, that I traveled to some states in secondary school was because I was going to represent my school in some of these competitions, and it made me to appreciate people from other states and have friends across. So when you do something over and over again, most especially in your formative years, it becomes a part of you, whether it's a positive or a negative behavior. And this is one of the reasons I started taking safety education to schools early. So now you see, the way a child treats another person during extracurricular activities is also something they would grow with. So imagine a child that maybe during games is always cheering others on. They won't really have a problem being supportive in their adulthood because they've been supportive throughout their formative years. Same also with a child who bullies other children on the playground or maybe in competitions, communicating a feeling of being better than the others. Knowingly or unknowingly, they will find themselves becoming critical, or there will be people that are dissenting, as they grow. This is why these kinds of things must be nipped in the bud. So during extracurricular activities, parents and teachers must be observant. They must play a role here.
Safety chick, you have forced me to say what I didn't want to say before. When Titi was talking about inter-house sports, I wanted to say it. I wanted to say when Titi was talking about inter-house sports, I said, let me just
finalize my comment.
Go on.
Let me just complete. I'm almost done. Yes, I'm almost done. Okay. So it helps to correct character flaws. And this is the best time to, curb that over competitiveness. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. And if we're able to make the children learn the extracurricular activity and also develop in their character, more loving, more supportive, not being bullies, not always wanting their own person cannot get it. Those kinds of attitudes spills over into adulthood. So when you see some adults manifesting certain characters on social media, see, if you dig deep, it probably started in extracurricular activities in schools. So I think that it should be a learning opportunity to also correct character flaws.
So let me say that thing because it's burning inside me now. Because when Titi mentioned inter-house sports, I wanted to mention it, but I said let me save time. But now that you also mentioned this inter-house sports and what the children do on the playground, there's this saying that you cannot give what you do not have. Have you not seen how competitive they are when they are matching? Have you not seen the parents and the teachers, how they fight in many schools, how they make it about themselves when they're competing? How they say, hide your costume. Don't let them see this. Don't let them see that. Do you see how evil it gets sometimes? I've witnessed it in many, many schools. It gets vicious. Just sports day. And we are modeling these things in front of the children. They are seeing how horrible their parents and their teachers can be. They fight. They literally, as in they become abusive when it comes to this sports day. They put themselves in front. They will be dancing. They will change the sports day to a dancing activity, a competition of parents and teachers. How on earth are we going to get children not to be jealous and envious and unsupportive when the people that should be modeling good behavior are the ones that are? It can't happen, safety. It cannot happen.
So I need to step in here. We have to
do our bit.
Hold on. So I just so that we don't deviate from the core of the question. So
it is the core now. This is the cocoa.
Yes, it's hot. So let's from the angle. So let me say,
Mr.
for example,
Rotimi is applying the fire extinguisher.
It's not extinguisher. If you guys born, no, it's not your.
It has expired though. Safety chick, go and check it. His fire extinguisher has expired. It's not working.
It's not okay, no problem. So that means you guys are going to burn. I'm not burning. You guys are the one burning.
Starting from you.
Let's get this, and I want to answer this question. Wait, dude, hold on. Hold on. Dude, hold on, please. I've actually seen this on the close side. I organize school competitions, especially spelling bee competitions, and I've seen a dimension of it. It's not just inter-house sports that this is playing. We've seen where top schools that have great culture in other areas, schools that have money. We've seen even schools that don't have money and all that. We've seen them outplay. Certain schools don't participate in competition just because they know that there's a tendency that they cannot determine the outcome who becomes first. And once they can't become first, then it's a brand association issue, right? There are schools like that. They would not participate because it's brand association. Now, there's an element we need to understand that sometimes the things at work in this situation or in this scenario, it's not just one-sided. So, and in some cases, and let me even give an example. I remember growing up, even in my own school, where we had inter-house sport, it was more like it was competitive, but it wasn't rivalry. Are you getting it? It was friendly competition. So even when it came to costume, right? Even when it came to matching, even when it came, yes, a lot of people have not taken it to the extreme. But the truth about it, in some cases, if you are not close to the edge or close to the school in question, we might see what is on the surface and we might misinterpret their motive. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So I want us to really take it from that angle to now say, look, we know these things shape children. And Roque Posh made a valid point that yes, children could learn jealousy, right? But then in another situation, you have the same inter-house, but the same people dancing, same people doing all those things. But if you go closer to them, you'll see that there was actually probably a task assigned, and the inter-house sport moved from event to project. It was a project-based enough. And why I'm saying that because I've seen some of these things close hand, and I've seen some misinterpretations online about some people's activity. You understand? So there are certain things you might do based on the messaging designed by whatever construct maybe your consultant was working on, whatever construct your philosophy is anchored on. Some schools don't even have, and which is why, okay, Jude, answer this question. You've worked with schools and you work in schools. Sometimes our preference of what is and what is not is anchored on our personality and our faith. How can we get unbiased? You understand? Where we understand that it's school. School is school. Do you understand? If you're having inter-house, some people don't have Christmas party. Some people don't even sing carol because of their faith, right? Some people will not participate in swimming because of their faith. Some people will not even allow children to sweat, to run up and down. They have field, but the field is just aesthetics. It's for you to match or do.
Religion on this show.
No, we're not talking about religion. We're talking about an issue. No, we're not talking. See, there are two different things. It's a
when I started hearing faith, I was getting scared. Oh, yes. This place will burn down.
It's a question, and okay, it's a question to Jude. So the question is this: that how can we take that and address that matter? Because environment, we've talked about it. Parents, we've talked about it. Teachers, we've talked about it. Now we're talking about the activities. Because at the end of the day, people are victims of someone's preference. Do you understand? And the decision of the school by the leader or by the head of department can hinder a whole lot of children just because by personal preference. Some people, because they don't want to stress themselves, they do not get to sign up on a particular competition or on a particular extracurricular activity just because they know it will involve them moving up and down. Some people, because they know that it will involve them getting logistics to go to the museum. Chichi said something about field trips. Some teachers don't know, their belief is you go to leave your house, go to work, from home, back to house. That activity of going on the road, coming back, counting children, minding them, some of them will say, hell no. So, Drew, please answer that.
Okay. That's a long question. What is the simple version of the question?
It's balance. It's causing how to be balanced in such decisions or how to promote balance. There's a holistic part of it. If you are a parent and you are not comfortable with the school's policy, faith, religion, I don't think you should be putting your child under that pressure. Because I've had situations, even in my time in primary school, that we had students that they would say, okay, in my religion, they don't sing national anthem. And it kind of causes a rift between some set of kids and the other set of kids. And the truth is that it's for the parents to not even attempt putting their children in schools that will conflict with their faith or their beliefs. Now, that's for parents. Now, with teachers, It depends on their how the school actually takes those competition, because I don't think a teacher will say no, I'm not taking a child out because I don't like to sweat or I don't like to count children, when your school is actually telling you to do that. So it depends on the policy of schools in that point of view. But for a balance, I don't think there's anything wrong in participating. Just many people don't even understand their faith when it comes to that. They don't understand what they believe, and they don't understand what level of depth they know about what they believe. So that particularly is causing conflicts between people, and they can't really strike the balance that this thing is not against your faith or against your belief, or it's not against humanity. So it depends on how you understand what you believe, that you can take decisions personally.
All right. Rhoda, please just give us a parting shot. We have.
I mean, a lot borders on. I'd like to say this, that I think this is generally for the private sector. I have to be specific, because in the public sector there are different sets of rules. This is general education, so you can easily just opt out if you don't want your child to. And I think the same applies for the private sector. But let me just kind of like say, when it comes to school activities, and everything that you need, the schools kind of like organize for their clients. I would say that I'm struggling with hearing a lot of school heads and school owners that have articulated very well their promise and their value proposition. And this is sometimes what causes the problem, because nobody should be gagged by the throat to engage in activities that does not align with their faith, especially because it's a very sensitive area. You don't want to touch that. But basically, schools have their philosophies, their vision statements, their mission statements. And when your parent is coming into the school, those should be really clear. Those should be extremely clear. I think that, because of market forces, demand and supply, sometimes some school heads are just, lost in trying to increase enrollment. And in doing that, they lose, the sense of focus that they've had, as their own case. That everybody opens up a business to the tune of their own philosophy, vision, and mission statement. And that should carry you through. However, a school should have all of this in check and then be able to communicate that articulately. Sometimes I wonder who is the expert in the room, the school, or the teachers, the education institution, or your clients. And so that's my passing shot. Be the expert, and let it show in what you do. Then let it show also in the area of activities that you offer, and let it be clear when it comes to admission processes, when you're trying to drive your enrollment. Let it be clear to parents so they know what to expect, or clear to your clients. Do activities shape? Yes, they do. They help shape, and nothing is an absolution, and so we can never really speak in absolute. But as school activities do shape, and school heads and school administrators and stakeholders should be very, very articulating and communicating their vision, their unique proposition, value proposition, and be the expert, please, so that the client understands what service you're offering, and then they can know what to choose from.
And sometimes you have schools taking up activities that are not, maybe they didn't start with it, but maybe along the way so it's kind of, maybe they reinforce it with parents that, okay, we are beginning to take such activities now, though we didn't start with it, so that parents who were not in the know before can also buy into it or opt out.
That's why it's parent education program, and it's your value proposition. You must always do that. You must always be able to explain. You hear Ronke Posh all the time saying her parents are in the know. Like, that's literally what you should do. And so you hardly have problems there. When they're well educated, they understand what you're serving, and then they know what to do. And of course, it should always never be an absolution. There should be a place of what's it called, moderation somewhere.
Thank you so much. Level of. We've actually now clocked an hour, and we have to bring it to a close at this point in time. We want to thank those who joined us for the first time today, and ringing the bell for them. And for those who sent in their comments and some questions. We want to thank you for joining from Facebook, YouTube, and across the world. So everybody, please just say bye-bye as we sign out. Thank you.
See ya.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.